I'm now going to walk you through our Modernline module. Modernline allows you to run your existing green screen applications under a browser. But rather than Modernline just being a normal screen scraper product, which is quite a lot around, it actually enhances your applications and lets you add extra value to them quite easily using the product. So what I'm going to try and show you here is just a few ways you can do this kind of thing. I'll start off from the Modernline menu on the iSeries, and I'll take you into modernization options, because this will actually give you a feeling for the kind of things you can do with Modernline. And I'm going to show you some examples of green screen, and you'll be able to see the green screens in the corner and the converted web pages as I go through. So these are the options I can set. I can set them either globally for everybody, or I can override these options for any particular user. So using Modernline, you can make the screens look completely different depending who's logging on, and different application, different functionality. Okay. So the first option there in Modernline says, shall I convert my function keys to buttons? And what that means is, whenever I've got function keys on the screen, shall I convert them to be buttons so they become clickable in Modernline? And I think you would normally say yes to that, so I'm going to leave that as a 1. But if I just flick over to Modernline over here and log on, so this is running the green screen application underneath me now. So now what I've done, I've gone to the iSeries main menu, and as you'll notice, the function keys that you're familiar with down the bottom of the menu have now been converted to buttons over here. You see, so I can move the mouse around and I can just click to wherever I want to go. So if I want to go to Information Assistant, which is normally F13, I can go there and I can press Cancel, which is basically doing F12 on the keyboard, and going back to where I was. So that's pretty standard, pretty easy. You will notice that Modernline, you can use templates the same as you can in Show Me. So again, you can customize how you want the look and feel of this to be, and you can actually share your Show Me templates that you've created with Modernline, so your screens can look exactly the same. If I go back to the green screen, the next option there says Display Sequence. This means when I've taken my function keys from my green screen and I've put them down to buttons down the side, or wherever I put them onto my template, what order do I want to display them in? Okay, I can either leave them in the order that are on the screen, so they'll come down the side of the screen in the order that were displayed in the original program. I can sort them into numeric sequence, i.e. they'll go in the F key order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even though that might not be the way they're displayed on the underlying green screen. Or I can sort them into alpha sequence, i.e. the text of the button, the function key, after the F3 equals or whatever. Now that can be quite interesting if you've got multi-language applications, because if you sort them into alpha sequence, it'll mean becoming a different sequence depending on what language your application is running in. The next box here says take F key ID from text for button. What that means is, on the green screen here, this will say F3 equals exit. Do I want to take the F3 equals out of the text before I display? You could leave it there if you want to, and it is quite valid in some instances, because even though we're making it so you can click on these things to go where you want to go, so if I go to Information Assistant, I can still press, and I know you can't see this, but I can press F12 on the keyboard, which will take me back to where I want to be. So if you know what all the function keys are, you can always go back to where you came from. That's fine. The next field says automatically detect subfiles. What this means is whenever there's a subfile list displayed anywhere on the screen, Modernline can turn it into a truly functioning data grid list like you would get in a web or a PC application. I'll show you what I mean. If I make that a 2, that means for every single subfile on the machine that ever gets displayed in my applications, I will convert it automatically. If I leave it as a 1, that means I'm just going to get it from the knowledge base. Now Modernline has its own internal knowledge base of all the display files on your system. So when we first load Modernline, we will run a utility program that will go around and analyze all your display files. It makes it a lot easier for Modernline to know exactly what is being displayed at any point in time. But if I say automatically detect subfiles as a 2, what I mean there is if I go back over here, if I do any command or any program that will display a subfile, if I do workout job for instance now, if I spell it right, so this is an IBM program, obviously there's displaying a workout job. There's no display files on the system, but Modernline has found it automatically and converted it. If I go into Show Me V5, and any of these will probably do, but I'll go to a list of Show Me definitions. You see, it's the regular green screen application that's converted it into a regular subfile. So you can see that compared to the green screen that's in the inset there, how Modernline's converted that screen. The next box says, shall I split the data panel when a subfile is displayed? What that means is, Normally on the green screen I've got data above the subfile and I've got data below the subfile. If I split it, then in my template I can have two different elements. One's the data panel at the top of the subfile, or one's the data panel below the subfile. It just gives you more flexibility about how you want the screen displayed. The next option says automatically detect windows. What this means is, if your green screen application has a window on it, we can convert it to a real window within Show Me. Show you what I mean. If I go into the Show Me configuration, then one of here is the window to enter the authorization codes. Now on the green screen, as you can see, that's just a flat green screen. Window is overlaid on it. But now this has come to life within modernI because I can move that about, which you can't do on the green screen, obviously. And a bit of fun there because you can actually see the data that's underlying the window, which you can't do on the green screen because it's fixed in place and there you are. But it just makes it a bit nicer. You can have multiple windows on the screen at the same time if you wanted. Your application does that, and move them around to your heart's content so you can see what is underneath the data. Just makes it a bit more modern. The next box says extract subfile column headings. Right, what that means is if I go back to my list to show me definitions and I press F12 now instead of using the button, on the green screen you'll see that you have a list. Sorry, the column headings here. On the green screen, the column headings are above the columns on the report. What modernI has done is extracted those from the green screen image and just put them into the headings on the subfile. Make it look like a proper report, like an Excel spreadsheet type report. More modern. The next box says multiline subfile action. What this means is, that's a bit of a mouthful all in one go, but I'm going to show you what this does now. You may well have some applications, like we do, where because of the green screen you've only got 82 or 132 columns, you're trying to fit a lot of information onto the screen. And I'll show you an example that we've got. If I just go into my library, I call MLS. I think it's MLS one. No, it's not. I need to do it from within Show Me because it uses the Show Me programs. Call MLS. So what I've got here is I've got a subfile that actually displays 3 lines of information because I couldn't get it all across the green screen. So we've got 3 lines in our subfiles, so that's displaying 4 lines at a time. And up here we've got our heading, so we're trying to explain to the user what the data is on each line. It's complete, not a jumble really, but you're trying to squeeze a lot of information onto the green screen. If I just mimic that and show you what modernI will do, you can configure it to convert those 3 lines into 1 line. So I'll go back to where I was and I'll just do add my library in. You see what I've got? That's much more readable. It's combined those lines. First 4 lines there you see in the subfile, all the 3 different lines have been combined into 1 line. Make it a lot more readable, a lot more easy to understand. And I've also, this is something I'm going to come to in a second, but I've also made that subfile display more lines. There was only 4 on my green screen. Another thing you can do in modernI is you can always say, I want to display more lines on the web page than I can on the green screen. Again, you've got a lot more space, a lot more real estate to put that data on. Another big advantage of modernI, this is one of the things that existing users love, is whenever you've got a subfile displayed, you can always download this to Excel, to an Excel spreadsheet. See my template there's got a little E button, which is download to Excel. And what it's going to do is going to roll through that subfile from the beginning to end and download the data into an Excel spreadsheet. Now I think I limited that to something like 30 rows, just for this demonstration. But however long your subfile is, I'll just pull the data in, the column headings there, and pull it into a subfile. So any green screen application that produces a list, you can, under modernI, download the data that is on the green screen into a subfile. And it's not just the data that's displayed on the first screen, it will page down until it gets to the end of the subfile and put all that into the list for you. Go back over here to modernI again. The modernization options. So that was multi-line subfile action. Just by putting a 2 in there, that means always expand the subfile whenever I know I've got multi-line. How does modernI do that? Well, it knows from its knowledge base, if it's analysed your DDS, and it knows you've got multiple lines in there. Extract screen headings. What that means is, on any screen, probably not a particularly good example. If I go back to my Show Me example again, if I go into my Show Me definitions, on the green screen I've got can have multiple heading information up here. this option just extracts that data and puts it into a separate area of the panel for a web page. So again, you can put different fonts on it, you can move it about, change different colours, anything you want to do quite easily. I've extracted the header information and put it into a different panel. The next box says extract screen options. Again, what you can do, if you look at the green screen that's overlaid there, you see all the options across the top. If I put these into a drop-down box here, so I just click on the yellow box, it all becomes, it's mouse clickable rather than having to use the keyboard. So if I click change, what it'll do, it'll type a 2 into that box for me, press enter, and take me into the Modernline maintenance routines. This is the show me maintenance routines. This is the routine I would normally use to maintain my show me definitions. Again, it's a window, so I can mess about, move it about. I love that bit. And again, it'll do it on any screen. If I do F21, I clicked it, I do workout job. Even though it's not in my knowledge base, it will still take all the actions you get on a workout job and put them down the side there. And if I click more options, that's F23 I think on the green screen, you'll see the options change to something else. Click enter, that should just take me back to where I was, and that's fine. And I'll go back to my show me menu. Again, you can sequence those options any way you want to. Flag number 1 will say always display them in the order that are on the screen. Again, 2 will sort them into numeric, and 3 will sort them into alpha sequence. Whenever I get a menu, I can say, Modernline, I want to make those menu items clickable. So when you get to a menu where you've got 1.2.3. and then the options against them, rather than have to key the options, you can tell Modernline to make that clickable. See, this is the show me menu. That's on the green screen, 1.show me definitions, 2.data dictionary. I don't have to enter the option, or I still can do. I can just click it and make Modernline perform the actions for me. I need to say there the minimum number of entries for it to recognise a menu, otherwise you might find it's thinking screens and menus when they're not. Template group there, I've got template group Steve. What that means is Modernline can use different templates for different users. So again, if you've got users that are in different companies perhaps, or different departments or different business entities, you can create a template that's got their own logo on, their own corporate colours, however you want to look. So again, Modernline can look different depending who logs on to the application. And the last thing I've done there is I've removed date and time. So at the top of the screen there, when we've got date and time, I've just told Modernline to remove that from the product. It's not there at all. What you would normally do, if you want the date on the screen, you can put a web widget in there like we have on there, but it's not actually displaying. But you can put a web widget to display the time. It just seems a bit silly to have the date and time from the green screen on there as well. Okay, so that's some of the basic functionality that you can do within Modernline, and that's really just then out of the box. Modernline will do a lot of work for you just by you spending 10 to 15 minutes setting up the defaults there, and if you like, defaults for every particular user. And your applications will now work happily under Modernline. You can go quite a lot further if you want to do so, and you can modify how any particular screen in your application works. I'll just give you a very quick feel for this. And to do this, we use the recognize screen technology. This is shared between Modernline and Show Me. The methodology is exactly the same. I'll just show you what I mean. If I've got a screen, like I said, that MLS screen before, I can say, this is how I told it to extend the subfile. First of all, you define to the product how to recognize that screen as opposed to any other screen that might ever be displayed in your application. And I've set on column 1, line position 3, it says MLS1, as you can see in the overlaid green screen template there. So once that screen has been recognized by Modernline, I can then perform lots of different actions against it. I'll walk you through them all in a second. But in this one, what I did, we do this is what we call override. So 6 with an override. So basically, I just said, for this screen, when that screen's displayed, I want to override my subfile details. And you see down there, I said extend subfile rows. So in the DDS, it says 4, or whenever I run it under Modernline on the browser, it's going to always display 12 rows. You can do lots of other things like change where the subfile starts on the screen, all that type of stuff. But that was just very basically what I wanted to do on that one, when I combined the multiple lines and made it just fill the whole screen. If I just walk you through what all these other options do, just to give you a feel for how it works. I'll just show you one more on the way through. Additional fields. What this means is on your green screen application, again, perhaps you've run out of real estate on the screen, you might want to display more data on the web. Imagine you had a supplier number or a customer number displayed on the screen, and your green screen application didn't display the name or some other information from the customer file. What you can do here is you can say, whenever this screen is displayed, I want to link to another file in another library, tell it how to join from fields on the screen, and then say which fields you want to display on the screen and the location on the green screen where you want to put them. Okay. They don't necessarily have to be up to 24 lines or into column 80 positions. You can put them on the right of the green screen, past the border of the screen, and Modernline will still find them and work with them. So that'd be quite useful to add any additional fields onto the screen that's displayed. You can also overwrite any screen attributes, again by displaying, by specifying the locations. You can change the attributes underneath from being red to blue or whatever you want them to be. Auto enter fields doesn't really mean I'm going to auto enter when I press enter. What this means is when I'm going through my application in a particular screen, you'll see where I've done this later, I can tell it to take data off the screen and save it into a Modernline field. So you specify a field name and the length and say take from this screen this data. Then you can then repaint that data onto any subsequent screen that you go onto in this session. For example, when I get to one screen, I might say my customer number is on line 7, position 12 for length of 10, and I want to call that customer in Modernline. And in here I could say, when I get to this particular screen, I want to paint my customer into a field that's already there. Quite easy. Calendar controls is a good one. I'm actually going to show you an example of this now because I've done this in this purchase order screen. What you do, if I do overrides for purchase order and go into calendar controls, you can say, whenever you've got a date field on your underline 5250 screen, I want to convert it into a calendar control. Yeah, so I say at screen row 10, position 41, I want a calendar control and I want it to be DDMMYY. So again, you can see the green screen now that I'm going to run in the Modernline with the calendar control converted. I just go back to my Modernline session, come out to show me. Let's do add little e and FV2, which is where my application is, PO menu. And the one I interfaced into is this create purchase order application. So you see now when I click that, Modernline has recognised that screen, and it's at that location I've converted that date entry field into a calendar control. So I can just click on the calendar control box there. Instead of having to key a date in, okay, it's going to make me kick a supplier in first. So I'll select Dave. Sorry. And then I can select my calendar control. Let's do the validation before it's do the calendar control. So click that, and I want to select 20th of March. So I see that I do that, and I tap out of the screen. It puts the slashes into the applications expecting. So whenever I've got a date field on any screen, I can manually override it. Now there is a routine within the product that you can say automatically generate me calendar controls. It will try and do that automatically for you. Won't always get it right, but get it right 90% of the time. It'll do it whenever the field is 6 or 8 long. The field name in the EDS has something like DTE or DAT in it. If it has an edit code of Y, for example, in the EDS, it will automatically convert it into a date field. Or if it says date in the text preceding it, it will automatically assume it's a date field. But in this instance, I've done that manually. So it makes it a lot easier, more modern. Your applications can automatically have calendar controls wherever there's a date field. Combined screens. This is quite a popular feature, although it can be slightly tricky to set up. Once you set up, it's really useful. You can combine up to 4 screens into one panel within Modernline. If you think about what I'm saying here, is that if you've got an application where you enter data onto screen 1 and then screen 2 and then screen 3 and then screen 4, you can have all that displayed on the screen at any point in time. And Modernline will handle all the logic about navigating between the screens to present that information to you. Makes it a lot easier than having to go, screen 1, enter screen 2, enter screen 3, enter screen 4, enter. It could even work where you've got data on screen 2 that you need to get from screen 1. So you enter the fields on screen 1, click a key, and it'll carry on and display all the fields from screen 2. Can be quite useful. I can override the cursor position whenever a particular screen is displayed, if I don't particularly want it where the program tells me to put it. If I've got Excel on my template, I can download, like I said before, any subfile listed into Excel. I can take that off at any particular screen, or if I put Excel authority to say this user is not allowed to download to Excel, I can add it on for this particular screen. I can go into function keys, and if my screen's got loads of different function keys that I'm never going to use some of them, I can use Modernization to take them off. Again, tidy up the screen. If there's 20 function keys defined, but I only ever use 3, take off the ones that you don't want to use. I can also add function keys into the application too. That doesn't mean I'm going to add new functionality automatically. That's really there so it'll add buttons onto the screen when your application doesn't have the function keys defined on the screen, but the routine is behind it. We've seen that many times. Input fields, what I can do here is I can say whenever this screen's displayed, I can say I don't want to display any input fields as input fields. This is a magic way of turning an update application for a particular user into just a view-only application, so they can't actually update any fields by mistake. Menu specifications, I can manually say it's a menu. I can manually define a multi-line subfile. I can define a navigation script against any screen, and what this means, when I press enter on the screen, it won't necessarily display the next screen that your application displays. I can put a navigation script here that says, okay, when the next screen is displayed, I want to press F9, and when the next screen is, I want to type this into a particular function on the screen, then press enter, and then carry on from where I am. It helps you navigate through your applications a lot easier. Open session button is a way of doing system requests, basically. So if I've signed on to a Modernization web session and I want to have another session open, I can just put a button on the screen that says open session, and it will open another browser session. I can override the way the role keys work on a green screen. Your template will have role keys that are turned on and off depending whether they're on and off in the underlying application. You can override that to say that the role keys always want to be active or never want to be active, irrespective of what the application says. The converse of combined screens together to display them is actually split panels apart as well. So if you've got one screen that's got loads and loads of information on, a bit messy, you can split that up into 4 different panels to display them on the screen if you want to do so. I said before about auto-entering fields onto the screen. This is where you can store them away. So you can say when the screen is displayed, I want to take the data at row 20, position 7 for length of 10, and store it in a field called customer. Okay, so then that field name customer is available anywhere in Modernization to The next option here is subfile column headings. I showed you before how whenever you got a subfile displayed, it will automatically extract the column headings from the screen. Okay, if you've not got a subfile in the knowledge base and your screen headings don't necessarily tie up over the columns, it can be quite tricky for the Modernization to do that. So you can override the column headings. It might just be you want to change the column headings anyway, so you can do that there by doing it. Subfile details I showed you before. Validation rules, what this means is I can add any extra validation rules. Again, this shares the technology with Shobi and iRoot. You define validation rules, existence rules on the file, got to be field values, ranges, all that type of stuff. And you can say, at the field at this location, I want to add this validation rule. So even though your application will accept a range of 1 to 9, you might say, I don't want to accept 5 in my case. So you can just say here, don't let them put a 5 in that definition. I can also manually define a window if I want to do so. So that gives you an outline of the functionality that you can use in Modernization. And just to finish, I just want to show you an example of a file maintenance routine running under Modernization. Now I'm showing you this because a lot of people have asked us what the difference is between Modernization and Shobi Plus, which is an application development tool. So I'm going to run you through this application, and then later on in today's session you'll see us developing this same application under Shobi Plus. So if I go add libly bi demo, and then I do call bid menu. So what I've just got here is a green screen application, again menu converted, that's going to maintain my customers. So the underlying application displays a subfile list of all the customers. It's got an option down across the top that says 2 equals change, 5 equals view. An F12 option to cancel. And if I want to change this line here, study bell, I just click it. Sorry, I click change. And that brings up the master file record. And I can change that as I can on the green screen. PLC. Yeah, so it's updated the file. So very standard subfile application, calling a flat screen, updating a file and coming back to where it was. Okay, now just try and remember what the application did. I know it's not very sophisticated, but we'll show you how you do that in Show Me Plus in about 10 or 15 minutes later on in the demonstration.